The Supplier Diversity Programme was launched 2.5 years ago, maybe almost 3 years ago. Again, this was born out of one of the strategic intents that we have, as a group. And that is, what is our role as a corporate business, but also as big business in South Africa? When you combine us as a grouping of companies, we could be regarded as a big business, and saying that what are we putting back, not only into society on a social level, but also economically, and our contribution to how we are growing the economy and helping to grow the economy. Something that we've always been passionate about is the growth and sustainability of small businesses, particularly Black-owned businesses. When we talk about Black, it includes women and it includes youth. And about 2.5 years ago, we decided, okay, let's see what we can do in terms of how we put a program together to work with small businesses in South Africa. And the starting point was, all right, if we're going to do this, we always say, let's look within and let's look at our own businesses. Let's start at home. And we then said, how do we identify businesses within our own supply chain that we can work with to grow? Talk about our intent is not to take small businesses and grow them from being one-man micro entity to becoming a two-man small business. It was really to say that how do we take a business, whether it be a small business or medium-sized business, as long as it's a Black-owned business, and grow it from where it currently is to something that's exponential, and to a point that where you are able to compete like for like with your competitors in the industry. We always find that even in our own supply chain, a lot of our suppliers, and particularly the small to medium-sized businesses, Black-owned businesses, they are still very reliant on Bidvest or the Bidvest entity that they're dealing with. So whether it is a Steiner, whether it is a Prestige as their client, or whether it is a Waltons that's their client at that point in time, you will find that the majority of their business actually stems from that client. So a big part of it was saying, in order for you to grow and really experience, I suppose, exponential growth, is that you have to de-risk yourself from having one client, because one customer doesn't make a business. We have scale, we have networks, we have customer bases, and we can use those resources, we can use those networks to open the doors for these businesses. They say, here, let us introduce you to our client, who also has their own supply chain, who also has their own supply needs. It's about access to new contracts. It's access to resources that says, how do we tap into the resource base that we have, the expertise and the skills? We have people that have been in business for many years, many years, that's running businesses. So how do we use that and allow these businesses to tap into those skills base to help them, to mentor them, to coach them, and to give them advice on their businesses in terms of what they should be looking at. We've also learned our lessons. We're not experts in growing small businesses. We have day jobs here. So we had to also find partners that could help us in this journey, that do have the expertise. And over the last 2.5 to 3 years, we've had different partners. We still have some partners that have started the journey with us, and some partners that have run the course to a point, and then we realized these businesses need something else. We also started off with about, say, 20 odd businesses. And we now are sitting with about 10 at the moment that's still on the program. These 10 have been with us since the beginning, and we've always made a commitment and said we will walk this journey with you for at least 5 years. But really to say, in order for us to see meaningful change and growth in the business, we have to work with you for at least a period of 5 years. So the 10 that we're sitting with now have really shown significant growth. They've shown significant change, and it's not really just about the actual business and the growth in the business, but it's also about the growth in the journey of the entrepreneur. Because if that growth and journey, doesn't take place, then that has a direct impact on the business and the ability to grow the business. And these entrepreneurs that we're working with at the moment have shown exceptional commitment, exceptional growth, and just a willingness and open-mindedness to learn. And for us, that has been absolutely phenomenal. And remember, we understand the life of an entrepreneur is literally you are the business in many cases. And often when you're not there, who is running the business? And we were trying to, I suppose, provide these entrepreneurs with the support that enabled them to remove themselves from the business, given a few hours in a month to say, okay, I'm going to dedicate a few hours in a month to attend this program, to sit with my mentor and my coach, to attend an event that Bidvest is having that would also give me exposure to other potential customers and contracts or expertise. But what we would do in the background is then enable them and enable that business to operate without the entrepreneur. But it's also about building capacity. So we've been on this journey with these entrepreneurs. We will take in probably a new intake in the new financial year. We will take on another lot of small businesses that sits within our supply chain. Again, when you go back to the rationale as to the why we did this, it speaks to that whole concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's about the diversity of our supply chain. All our suppliers can't look the same. We have to demonstrate that as we are trying to transform as a business, individual businesses, as a grouping, we expect our suppliers to do the very same, right? So it's also about creating this expectation that you have to walk the journey with us. So we have spoken about there has to be a fine balance between the suppliers that we use in the value chain. They also have to represent what we represent, and that is diversity. So from very big multinationals to very small SMEs. And that's the diversity that we're looking for. But in order to sustain that balance and to grow that the diversity in the supply chain, that means that we also have to come to the party to develop those smaller businesses. The reality is, if we don't do it, I don't understand how we expect this economy to grow, because the biggest growth, we all know it, is going to come from small businesses. We also all know the reasons why small businesses fail, and they fail fast. We know that. So unless businesses like ourselves that have the capacity, that have the scope, that have the networks and the resources don't come to the party to actually do what we do to help small businesses. Okay? So unless we don't do our part, they don't stand a chance. They absolutely don't stand a chance. And we know, where's employment going to come from? Where's job creation going to come from? It's going to come from these businesses. And we've seen it already. I mean, within the first 2 years, there was job creation in terms of new employees recruited into these businesses was just over 100 people. When you look at the size of these businesses, that is quite significant, and that's outside of obviously the revenue growth. And what has been wonderful to see is just the mindset around job creation, is that everybody in this program are keen and quite insistent on making a difference. And that means, how do we make sure that we not only bring people into our businesses, but also upskill and develop them? And then there's the aspect of now it's a matter of how we give back, and that back goes into society and into the community. So this project is absolutely vital for us, and we will continue on this journey. We are learning as we move along. So these entrepreneurs are also teaching us lessons in terms of how we think about business. As curious as they are about the corporate space, we are also learning about the life of an entrepreneur and what we can do differently as we walk this journey with them.